A lot of people routinely address the lack of originality in film these days. Most major box office successes in popular movies are sequels, remakes, adaptations, or versions of something that's already been done. And while many of those are great, you can't help but crave something more unique. Every once in a while, though, a film comes along that's not only unique, but restores your faith in cinema. For me, one of those films is Song of the Sea. I was fascinated by Song of the Sea long before I first saw it. It had a very particular look to it that set it apart from other animated films being critically praised around the time of its release. It was nominated for Best Animated Feature in 2015, losing alongside all the other deserving nominees unfairly to Big Hero 6. The film is from Tomm Moore and his studio Cartoon Saloon out of Ireland. He previously made the captivating and spooky Secret of Kells in 2009, which was the first sign a true artist of animation was coming onto the scene. Heavily drawing from Irish myths and folklore like Kells, Song of the Sea is about a mute little girl called Saoirse, who happens to be a Selkie, a Gaelic seal spirit, and her older brother Ben, who live on an island off the coast of Ireland. They don't get along primarily because Ben associates Saoirse with the memory of their mother, who disappeared when she was born. Their father has become an alcoholic in a seemingly permanent state of depression, and eventually the children are sent to the city with their grandmother. When out on Halloween, they discover fairies who tell Saoirse she has the power to send them back to their ancient home by singing the Song of the Sea. So the siblings embark on an epic magical quest home before it's too late for the fairies and Saoirse. This film looks amazing. The animation is some of the most breathtaking I've ever seen. Its fluid yet simplistic style is tonally perfect, making it feel like a storybook. At the same time, it's so colorful and distinctly intricately designed that it becomes mesmerizing to look at. And the creativity is through the roof. The designs of the mystical figures and their environments are so interesting and beautiful. There's enormous detail to even the props and backgrounds, and does a lot of really new things with its 2D style. The motion of characters and places is stupendous. There are scenes that in their visual splendor alone feel like classics of animation. It's simply a marvel to behold visually if you get nothing else out of it. That, however, is extremely unlikely. While the plot borrows elements of legendary Gaelic ideas, figures, and beings, the story is very original, being grounded in a fairly modern setting with relatable characters, making the fantastical experiences all the more effective. During the grand journey it takes you on, there's some great moments of tension and a couple scenes that even give off an unsettling and eerie atmosphere. It keeps you guessing, throwing unexpected wonders and dangers at you, and as it does this, Saoirse and Ben are a wonderful pair to follow, compelling and lovable as they bond on their journey. Saoirse is adorable, as well as clever and curious, with an endearing sense of wide-eyed wonder that comes through despite her lack of speech. Ben, voiced by Moon Boy's David Rahl, is feisty, determined, and surprisingly courageous, as we see him forced to be his sister's caretaker. In many ways, he's an average boy, resistant to change and a bit reckless, but we see him grow in their adventure. He realizes the truth in his mother's stories, comes to terms with her loss, and grows affection for his otherworldly sister in his desire to protect her. He's also a very real kid, a relatable hero of this story. The supporting characters, whether they be human or fairy, are brought to life too by the animation, the storytelling, and in some cases the voice acting. Brendan Gleeson, who's contractually obligated to be in every Irish film, voices Connor, the kid's dad, while Fiona Flanagan voices their granny, as well as Maka, the Owl Witch. And singer Lisa Hannigan is brilliant as the kid's mother Brona, imbuing her character a mysticism in her performance. These characters serve the story incredibly well and very quickly earn your investment. And that pays off. There are scenes that just give off a feeling of joy. The emotion is just as important a part of this film's story as its characters, and we get some incredibly touching moments, especially between the siblings. It's got a wonderful sense of heart, and it's truly a film to inspire both laughter and tears. Oh, and the Celtic soundtrack is delightful. The title song is played a number of times, and each time it's warming and beautiful. But in contrast to those great feelings, Song of the Sea has a really resonant theme of loss to it. Ben's resentful relationship with his sister is based on the tragedy of his mother's disappearance, which not only deepens his character and gives him a personal hurdle to cross, but the circumstance behind her disappearance is heartbreaking and revealed, especially when looked at through his eyes. For a film that deals with supernatural forces, Ben and his father are kept grounded in the real world, while Saoirse is beyond it. And so we see how the loss of Brona and even potentially Saoirse affects them in a way it doesn't the fairies and Selkies. Yeah, this movie actually gets in a comment or two on human nature and familial bonds. Dealing with tragedy appears elsewhere in the film too, whether it be the fairies longing for their native realm, or Maka's own backstory and loss. If you're looking for a traditionally animated film that's creative, captivating, and gorgeous to look at, with enjoyable characters, a rich world, and a sense of wonder, Song of the Sea is that film. It's certainly the one I envisioned. Ever since I first saw it, it quickly became one of my favorite animated films, and is evidence of the sheer brilliance that can be done in animation. If there's anything to criticize, it could be that the dog Coo doesn't leave much of an impression. There's also one scene that's very reminiscent of Spirited Away, which makes sense considering Moore is clearly very influenced by Miyazaki, but it works for the story and I love that film enough that I don't mind. Watching Song of the Sea really makes me wish that this kind of imagination, ingenuity, and timelessness can be brought to animated films in Hollywood. Sure, Inside Out had all that in spades, but Pixar followed up with The Good Dinosaur, so perhaps not being in Hollywood may be this film's greatest asset. As it is, I absolutely love Song of the Sea, a film worth admiring for the ages.